Okay, so I'll call our meeting to order at 4 p.m. So we have adoption of agenda. So there's recommendation that the agenda of the Gravenhurst Trails Committee the agenda of the Gravenhurst Trails Committee meeting dated March 13th, 2025 be approved as circulated and amended. Can I have a mover? I saw Tina, seconder, Judy?
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
You can't vote as an affiliate.
Oh, okay. So can I have a seconder? Val? Okay. All in favor? All right, perfect. So disclosure of pecuniary interests, I don't see any. So approval of minutes. So recommendation that the minutes of the Gravenhurst Trails Committee meeting dated November 14th, 2024 be approved as circulated. Can I have a mover? Eric? Seconder? Sam? Okay. All in favor? Perfect. So no deputations that I'm aware of, and unfinished business. So affiliate update. So we have Judy here with us from the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Thank you very much, Judy, for being here and volunteering. And for the Gravenhurst Senior Center, unfortunately, they felt that this wasn't something that the seniors at their center were very able to participate in. So they're very supportive of the committee, but they just felt that the majority of their seniors weren't able to go and utilize the trail systems. So, but yeah, that's what their committee felt. Anything that we want to include in with the unfinished business for the affiliate updates? Nope. Okay, so moving on to the meeting and maintenance scheduling.
Okay, so we attempted to get together in November, but unfortunately, we were cut off with the amount of snow that we received. So I know we tried. I want to thank Craig for distributing that electronic poll scheduling software that he used. I thought that was pretty handy. And now that the weather's turned and it's nicer out, I just want to get back on that ball rolling. So I would like to ask Craig to, if you're able to do that, send that out to us again. And then that way we can pick a few dates and times and actually get out on the trails like we talked about and check them out, go over what's good, bad, and the ugly, and come up with some projects and plans. I have a few things that I'd like to implement, and I'd like to get your guys' input into that as well. And again, we can schedule that amongst ourselves based on everybody's availability. So I just wanted to, Heidi?
Yeah, I have a question about that. So I know we talked about maybe splitting up groups of people. Now, do these meetings on the trail constitute a quorum or a meeting of this committee? Or are we permitted to sort of be a working group and not be considered a quorum? Or I guess my other question is, flexibility and things like that. Can people still go out if you don't have quorum either? So I guess quorum is on site visits is my question. How does that work?
My understanding from Jonathan at our last meeting, that it would be okay if we were going out on a work date, that it would be okay if we were all there together as long as we were there just to perform maintenance or trail inspections. but not to discuss business or make any motions or plans. And opposite of that, we don't need quorum to go out. So if it was like one person, 2 people, 3 people, it would be fine either way.
Perfect. Does anyone else have any questions about that? Oh, okay. I'll send out the email to everyone and include something similar to what I did before. Oh, yep.
Yeah, I've got a question about that. So does that mean we have to decide in this room what needs to be done out there? Or can we go out with the intention of just sort of making the trail better while we're there? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
that's my take on it, is that we can go out and, do trail maintenance and anything like that, as long as we're, we're not discussing matters that we should bring here, then if we're just doing like trail maintenance, then it should be okay.
Okay, thanks.
Tina?
If we saw something out there that we wanted to address in here, we could bring it back and ask for it to be put on the agenda?
Yeah, we can do that. We can also make more, like, we can meet each other more than we do right now as well, if we need to. So if we do see something out there that, really needs to be addressed, earlier on, then we can do that. But if we also see something out there, then we could just make a note of it to bring it here to discuss. So that's what we can do as well. Yeah.
And if we saw something that was like kind of mission critical, like it needed to be action right away, then we'd bring it back to staff?
Yes, if there's something that needs immediate attention, please report that right away, and we will address it.
Okay, any more questions? No? Okay, so let's move on to the new business. So grants funding opportunities. So Tina informed me of something, if you want to take off on this one. Okay.
Sure, so through my other job, well, like my day job at the district, I'm sure everybody saw in the news that Muskoka is now included in the Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation, so we can apply to Northern Ontario Heritage Fund for funding, and that they, in addition to including Muskoka in that catchment area, they also provided an extra $30 million in funding for everybody, so there would be more funding. So there's several streams of funding. One of them is called Community Enhancement, and it's for rural municipalities under 30,000, so we would qualify. And it's for incremental improvements, repairs, or renovations to improve and extend the useful life of capital assets, including recreational facilities, municipal assets, community halls, that contribute to a healthy and vibrant community. So one of my team members was having a conversation with the person who sort of administers this fund, like for Muskoka, or is the like contact. And so he was saying, well, would the bridge repair and Bracebridge count? And that person was saying, well, no, not that kind of infrastructure, but it would be really great if you had trails that you wanted to upgrade or you wanted to create new trails. This would be a great fund to apply to. So there's not a deadline, it's like a rolling deadline. I just wanted to sort of say bring to the table, this is something we could apply to. I haven't looked at the application procedure or the questions or anything, but somebody else on my team did and said, it looks really quite manageable. It's not, 20 pages of questions and a whole bunch of detailed information and studies that you need. So I would think with the study you did, and if we had something we wanted to move forward on, we could apply, and I'd certainly be happy to put some time into that, helping develop materials if there was anything we wanted to consider in the future.
Heidi?
On that question, I'm sort of giving Director Stacy the side eye because I think there's competitions between municipalities, but also departments and municipalities. So we have often facility like places coming to the town to ask if we can apply for a grant for them. One example, we've had that before where outside groups want the town's support, but it's also something that we want for themselves. I mean, and this is a grant that would benefit the town because this is a town committee. But I would suggest that our staff will, and you know, Tina, of course, how this works, our staff will be looking at these and they may bring some recommendations where they see, we don't know what's under the snow. I mean, it could very well that this would be a perfect grant for this, for a trail system, but I just wanted to explain to the group that that's how sometimes it works, because this group would be competing with something else within the town. So if the priority would be set by council with a recommendation from this committee. So just so we're all on the same page. Is that right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mayor Lorenz, absolutely. If this committee has a specific grant in mind that they would like to perhaps work towards, a motion from this committee to go to council to get direction to do that would be required. And even at the senior leadership team level, there's lots of discussions going on and competition amongst ourselves of what grant is appropriate for us. I do know that Northern Ontario Heritage Fund grant that's available is a discussion item at SLT right now, and there are a few departments that are looking to apply for that. I confess I'm not too adverse with if the municipality can apply for more than one project, but to ensure that we don't step on anybody's toes, if there's a grant, a motion on the floor with consensus of this committee would help us do that investigative piece and report back. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Stacy. Yeah, I was looking at the everything that Tina provided to me, and yeah, there's quite a few that we could potentially apply to, but I know that there's, of course, we don't want to step on anyone's toes here, so, but that is definitely something that we could do is put the recommendation to council. Does anyone else have any questions?
Just an update to committee. The Trans-Canada Trail also has funding available, and just recently they have a spring trail care grant, which I took the liberty to apply to, and it's basically they really want to promote volunteerism on the trail, so I thought that'd be perfect for our volunteer committee, and they are also hoping that we would time it for National Trail Day, which apparently is Saturday, June 7th. So I did put in a grant application saying that we would do some trail spring cleanup on the Coopers Falls section of the Trans-Canada Trail and involve volunteers. Apparently we will be informed tomorrow whether or not we're successful. I do believe that it's one of those ones, if you apply, your chances are pretty darn good that you're going to get it. So there's that. And then also same thing with Trans-Canada Trail. I do know we do have some maintenance projects that we're needing to do on the trail that once we get a project, like the details planned out, we can apply to them for their maintenance stream, which would fund that specific project. And we wouldn't be competing with anybody else, so it would be a Trans-Canada Trail grant for work specifically on the Trans-Canada Trail. And that is also on the Coopers Falls section.
I was looking at the grants, those specifically those grants, and that's really exciting. So I'm really happy that we can hopefully get some good news on that, and yeah. Yeah, because that was one of the questions I was actually going to ask was if we're utilizing any grants or funding currently for the trails. So is that the only one right now or potentially?
At the moment, that's all we have lined up.
Okay. Any other questions about grants or funding? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so let's keep moving to next item. So type 1 primary trail planning. So really it's not just type 1 primary trails, but really upgrade to trail infrastructure alongside road improvements. So if we look at the master plan, we can see that there are many recommended trails, and the cost-effective way to build out these trails is at the same time as road improvements. So I mean, I disagree with a few of the recommendations in the master plan, specifically the multi-use trails, as opposed to something that's more dedicated, as well as I wish that there would be more trails throughout the urban center of our town. But I believe that with what we have right now with the town's road needs study, as well as the master plan, that we're in a position where we can put together potentially a report that puts forward project timelines for these upgrades as they occur. So in a 5-year or 10-year or a 20-year plan, so we can see and ensure that those upgrades are put in when those roads are upgraded. So this is something that most municipalities also do. They look at they look at something like our roads needs study, and then they use that to actually plan out their trails. The one that I'm actually most, what I think is the best one that I found was the City of Kelowna. They have a 20-year plan, and they can stipulate all the necessary road upgrades, and you can actually see them. They break it out from every 5 years, which roads are going to be upgraded and where, and how they can see it. And you can actually look at this, and it's probably my favorite one, and I can provide that to the group at a later date. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that's put out there. Sorry, so does anyone have any questions about the primary trails planning or type 1 trails or any sort of trails in those regard? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so let's keep moving. Trail volunteers and recruitment. So is the public available to, my question is the public available to volunteer in the same capacity? Is the public available to volunteer in the same capacity that we are? Or are there requirements like legal forms or safety boots that they would need if just someone from the public wanted to help out as well? Eric?
Is my mic working? I can answer that. If they are strictly volunteering, then providing safety boots would actually not be a good idea. Because volunteers are legally not considered workers in this province, so it would be best to have volunteers provide their own equipment. So it'd just be best not to provide them with anything, right? Then they're not legally classified as workers in any way. I just wanted to mention that, right? Just to answer that.
Okay, that's good to know. Heidi?
Does that include like bring your own tools? Like bring your own shovel or bring your own pruners or gloves? Extend to that?
Yeah, so essentially, as long as a worker's not receiving any monetary compensation, right, and they're strictly a volunteer on their own time and they're not getting paid in any way, then legally they're not classified as workers, right? Unless, of course, they were co-op students, that's different, right? They are classified as workers, but so it gets a little gray in terms of providing them with tools and equipment and things like that, right? Because where's that line drawn, right? But other than that, yeah, we could require volunteers to provide all their own equipment. That would be the best way around that, and for any legal issues surrounding that. Yeah.
Tia?
In the past, have you used volunteers for trail maintenance that were not staff or were not, well, we didn't have a committee, but has it always just been staff?
Most recently, the only volunteers that we've been using for trail work have been the Beaver Creek Community Volunteer Group. So they come trained and with their own supplies and their own tools. We do have other volunteers in the community, and we've provided gloves and vests for them, but they're not using any machinery or heavy tools or anything like that.
sorry. So, when it comes to, for example, inmates or correctional institution, if they're doing work outside of the prison, they are legally classified as workers, even though they don't get paid. Right, so that works for inmates, but if they're working within the prison, they're not. Right, so that's the only other circumstance other than volunteers where they would legally be considered workers. I'll tell you later.
Well, I'm learning a lot here. Yeah, I really think that we should, because we're a committee, we're a new committee, but, I mean, there's nothing that says that we won't, or we will still be around and, you know, after this term is over. So, just finding a way that we can get volunteers out and knowing what they, like, if there's any work projects or any way that the community can know what the work projects are and what they can do without too many barriers, that'd be great. The less barriers to actually get people to help, the more willing they are to help. So if there's any, like, I know in the master plan it was talking about a logbook that people can go and just look at and then know, like, hey, I can go out to this particular trail, and maybe there's a bench that they need to make, for example. But yeah, that'd be great if we could have something like that. That way we can go and talk to people that we know even and have them come out and do some good work. Heidi?
I'm not sure this is the appropriate time to ask this question or make the suggestion, but seeing we're talking about trail volunteers and recruitment, I always think a bit of competition adds some fun to volunteering. So the district has the cleanup day, and I know the high school kids in Gravenhurst, they picked up the most garbage on the Earth Cleanup Day. And I wonder if once we have the opportunity to go out and look at the trails and we come back here and we decide what's a priority and what that sort of what the work plan looks like. I imagine that's, you know, the goal of getting out on the trails, so we can establish a work plan by area, or not sure exactly what that looks like, but with Lake Association season coming up and things like that, like, I wonder if we should look at a campaign to target certain, like, groups to participate. Or, you know, we know, Chamber of Commerce. So I guess my question is how do we best utilize these groups that are already in place? So, Rotary, Lions, the horticultural group, Probus, like, how do we, the schools, like, I believe competition makes things a little fun. Like, does everybody get a section of a trail maybe? So how do we go about doing that? Is that sort of, once we sort of evaluate the situation and concentrate where we're going to be, is that something that we would discuss then, is how do we get these people involved? Even Chamber of Commerce, like, hold a contest with businesses to see, I don't know, I just think if you involve people and make it a bit of fun, like Clear Lake Brewery, for example, they had a Clean Up the Torrance Barrens initiative, and you just went to the Torrance Barrens, and then after you got a free brew at the Clear Lake. So something like that, those sort of partnerships, I think, are a good way to get people involved and make it more of an event than just, anyway, those are my thoughts on volunteer recruitment. So I don't know where we're at with how we get from there to that, or how we get to that stage. So I'm looking at Kyla.
I was looking at.
Okay, well, I know we, for promotion, we actually have to go through the proper, town channels. We can't just, make our own posts, but we as people can also set up meetings and talk to, like, the schools, and, like, we can organize specific days, and we can do that, but we can't promote it digitally. Like, we have to go through the town for that sort of work, but we can definitely, like, break up into groups. Like, I don't have children myself. I don't know anyone at the school. If someone has kids at their school and they know the teachers quite well, or and then we can break things up that way to try to find volunteers. But yeah, Tina?
Well, how much, like, would there be, like, garbage picking upping that needs to happen versus, you know, stuff that you wouldn't probably want, like, elementary kids to do, like where it might be dragging branches around or cutting shrubs, but I don't know, like, I just think we might need to know what's involved before we decide who we want, because like, you know, picking up garbage is great for school kids, but you maybe don't want them all waving branches around in the middle of the bush, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, but something like a wood shop class would be really good for if like the benches again, like if we could get them to do like a special projects or, you know, something like that, like if we think like it's not just about trail cleanups, then we can work on things like, you know, making new side trails with the grant money and then use potentially some of the kids to cut some bushes or to make that new trail or, yeah, like I said before, like special projects for those kids. And it's not just kids as well. It's like I have a bunch of friends who, they are very outdoorsy people. So getting them to just, you know, get together, go out and do what we can is also another option as well. So I saw Director Stacy first.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just some advice, perhaps. Kayla is the staff resource to this particular committee. If there's particular work that this committee would like done in advance of a next meeting, it wouldn't hurt to put a motion on the floor to give some direction to Kayla, even if it's develop a rough work plan based on what you're aware of today is required in our trail, and look at the feasibility of developing a program for a trail cleanup day or a trail management day, and something along the lines is what's been suggested by Mayor Lorenz. I think it's a great thing for a little competition, and I think we could make it fun relatively simply. So, but don't be afraid to make motions and have your staff resource do some of that legwork for you, and don't feel you have to take it all on yourselves. So I'll leave it there.
Yeah, thank you, Director Stacy. To start at the entire trail volunteers and recruitment, I just wasn't even sure if we could utilize the public in the way that we're talking about right now. So that's thank you very much for that. That's good. Tina, I saw your hand was up as well. Or sorry, Val.
Just kind of, Mayor Lorenz said, like, I don't know how we get from here to there, but one thing is once we start going on the trails, whether it's as a group or smaller groups, we can look at each trail, assess what needs to be done, whether it's a bunch of garbage pickup, maybe garbage is on like further back into the trail, whether it needs to be clearing a little bit of brush, and from there try to narrow down what kind of volunteers we're looking for. So it's trail specific instead of just sending random people to random trails. We can actually ask for specific age groups or demographics to go to a particular trail. We're looking for garbage pickup or brush maintenance, and then also ask for their suggestions when they're on the trail, what they would like to see or what they see that could be improved on. Just an idea.
Tina?
So I was wondering, like, how much is staff aware of at this very point, to Director Stacy's input? That, like, I know, obviously you don't know what happened over the winter, but as of the fall, is there some kind of is there a work plan? Is there a state of the trails chart or something?
I do have an ongoing list and work plan of things that need to be done, issues, and I don't doubt that after this winter there will be a lot of brush cleaning off. But I can send that out. I was just thinking that, like, as you mentioned, so I'll send that out, what I know of off the top of my head, so everybody's got to look at that. And I also agree that if we all, once we start going, then we'll come up with more ideas as well. I also have like a list started of people that have either emailed in and asked if they can help out, or you've run into on the trail, as well as different trail groups. Ride Community Co-op's another one that is quite involved out on the Coopers Falls Trail and that too. So they would also probably be another group that would like to have days like that. And There's different things like benches that definitely need to be replaced, or if there's school groups that want to make bird houses or bat houses, or like, there's all kinds of different possibilities that don't require, like, I think our group would do like maintenance stuff with the work boots and the equipment, and then those volunteers would do less physical, safer jobs kind of thing. And one good thing about our trails is there's not ever much garbage on them. So I know that's always a big push. I want to come and do a trail cleanup and do garbage removal, but fortunately here we don't, that's not usually one of our bigger problems.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question about, I walk one specific trail all the time. I actually haven't walked it since the snow was waist high, but plan to get back to it soon. And I often think, and this goes back to a work plan, that I wonder if we should put a motion on that we do, this group does ask Kyla to come forward with a proposed work plan where she sees priorities, and then we can ask her to bring that forward, and then by then we'll have been out on the trails. So for our next meeting, we would have given her instruction, and then we can tweak it. So at least we're not starting reinventing the wheel when we get back here after being on the trails. So I wonder if there is an appetite to put something like that forward. I see some heads nodding. So we'll ask, maybe take a minute and ask Bessie to just put something together that we can read, and then maybe put that forward. But back to my original point. So sometimes I've been on the trail and I think, oh my gosh, there's so much like lumber here, like, you know, like for firewood and for kindling and things like that. And I wonder, is there any way to monetize like cleaning up these woods at all? Like, is there any way you could say to somebody who, you know, sells firewood at the end of their driveway and say, listen, you can have a day and come and pick this part clean and do whatever you do with the wood and sell it or do whatever, like, you know, down trees and things like that. Like, has there ever been any sort of town partnership with somebody who sells kindling and wood and that sort of thing that you see on the side of the road? Have we ever thought of that? It's not really, I realize that's not a volunteer program, but I just wonder, rather than it all just getting chipped or going to the dump, or is there a way to monetize some of this wood? Because I mean, a lot of places, there's lots of big trees that have fallen, that, you know, hardwood trees.
I didn't know with you if you were going to speak. I've never had that thought, and one thing to take into consideration, I'm not sure specifically which trail you're walking on. Some of our trails are on private property with land use agreements. So depending which trail you're talking about, that might be one of those things, but I would put that further up the chain. About liability for having somebody come clear wood unsupervised, and it's a neat idea though.
Yeah, I also know that there's a lot of, like, when you're actually out on the trails, there's private property that's right next to it, and it's really tough to know when you're actually on town-owned land or if you're on private property as well. So that'd be a difficult one. I saw Judy first.
With that subject, with our business and a lot of cottagers walking on our property, I would be very wary of anything like that happening, because I've seen people actually take our firewood from our pile and walk off. And it's very frustrating, but you don't want someone to come in and say, well, you said we could clear the dead stuff. This tree that's up, it looks dead, and you don't know. So I wouldn't want it on our property.
I think I saw Tina's hand up first, and then Good, Eric.
That's a good point, Judy. I was also thinking, like, I'm not like an ecological expert, but isn't there some advantage to like leaving some of the dead debris so that it helps make habitat for little crittery things and stuff? Which, that was really well said.
Yeah, I had that thought too, Eric.
I can answer that. Yeah, I like the idea a lot, but I mean, I think if we say to people, hey, go out with your chainsaws and grab whatever wood, they're gonna start taking stuff off the forest floor, all those things. And actually, like Tina said, it is majorly beneficial to just leave that stuff. Right, on the trail obviously is an issue, but to leave all that stuff in the forest is the best thing you can do. Right, so because you're gonna get people in there, they're gonna remove everything, they're gonna go way back off the trail, private property, and you're gonna run into those types of problems, I think so. But, yeah, it makes more sense to leave it, right? Way better for the forest. Yeah.
Okay, circling back to what I was talking about before, that we want to make a motion here so that Kyla can bring us the necessary information for next meeting.
Yep, we can take a short recess to craft a motion to do that, okay? Does that sound good? Yep, okay.
Okay. So, be it resolved that the Gravenhurst Trails Committee direct the staff liaison to develop a 2025 trail maintenance work plan, which includes opportunities for volunteerism. Mover and a second. Sorry, can I get a mover? Val, a seconder? Eric. Vote? Perfect, that passes. Amazing. So with that, let's keep moving. So the next item is formalize urban neighborhood connections. So as we know, locals make a lot of shortcuts in this town. There's a railroad track that cuts across our downtown as well as basically our urban center. So, which is very unsafe to use, as well as that I've seen people quite frequently use private properties to get where they're going. This really indicates that people really want to walk to get around, or that is a requirement that they have. The work plan, sorry, not the work plan, the master plan identifies multiples of these shortcuts, which is owned by town land. I've also found multiples that isn't included in the master plan as well, which can be utilized. That's through Muskoka GeoHub. So just finding a way to have people use their user-made shortcuts, lessen them, as well as finding user-made paths that to push them towards pushing people towards using actual paths that they can use, that legally use. That's what I'm trying to say with formalizing urban neighborhood connections here. So these shortcuts are generally 100 meters or less. They're a vegetated space. Some of them are grass, some of them are treed or shrubs. Some of them show up on Muskoka GeoHub as trails. Some of them don't. Some of them are maintained, some are not. There's no real rhyme or reason that I could see for some of these. I think it'd be something that we should consider to formalize these connections, make them known to the public, as well as promote them. So, Heidi?
Do you have them marked on a map? Like where could the rest of us go see? I know where some are because I probably take some of them sometimes. There's one that's over the hill at the end of First Street, for example, like in behind the Oakwood. So is that what you're talking about? Is those sort of things, like formalizing that? So would we put, is the suggestion that we include these in our trail inventory, I guess, is that what we're looking to do here?
Yeah, that was the concept. I don't have a map exactly. I have a list of, where they are, but there's no actual map to show where they are. That's one of the things that it wasn't even in the master plan, all of the different ones. Adding them to the trails, the known trails, then that's basically the concept of what I'm trying to go with here. Tina?
And would these be like private pieces of property or public? And if there's private, would we have to create land use agreements if people are gonna formally use them versus I'm just like trespassing?
So what they are, there's 2 lots, and they don't actually touch in the middle. So there's a trail that you can use that's not owned privately. It's public land that people can use to get from one neighborhood to the other neighborhood, like a catwalk, but that's not really, the right term for it right now. But that's mainly it. It is publicly owned land. Tina?
And how many are you talking about that you would estimate that exist?
I believe the master plan identified 3 or 4. I have about 6 on top of that. Heidi?
Is one of them Bethune along the, is that considered one? Because that's a well-known trail that's not really a trail, that's used as a sidewalk, that also snowmobiles and you know what I'm talking about. Is that one? Is that not a trail but is a trail, or is that considered a trail? The beaten down little 2-foot wide goat path along Bethune from Winewood to, I guess, to Just for Kicks.
I know Andrew wants to pipe in there, but part of that isn't, it's not it's private property too. It's not on, I mean, it looks like it's on the road allowance, so some of it's on road allowance, like that one there, the plaza owns quite a big chunk of it. And there's also issues having multi-use paths, and if it's a sidewalk, it can't be a snowmobile trail, and there's issues that way as well. So if Andrew wants to add into that.
Through you, Mr. Chair, just really an information piece, further to Mayor Loren's comment. We did look at that as a staff about potentially putting that into our capital budget, and due to the land implications, it is quite a costly endeavor if that's kind of one of the ones you're earmarking as one we should look at, because of the complications with it associated with the snowmobile trail, land that the town doesn't own, and there's a lot of infrastructure actually in the way that needs to be relocated to facilitate that. Some of these walkways that you're talking about in between communities, I wonder if some of them are servicing corridors for water main and sanitary sewer, let alone pedestrian connection blocks.
Thank you, Director Stacy. I looked at the Engineering Public Works layers on GeoHub, but I didn't see anything like what you were talking about. They just seem to be just neighborhood trails where they don't actually connect. There's also a few that, like I said, aren't open to the public and they don't get used, but a lot of these are also, they seem to be maintained by the town. I mean, grass doesn't stay, 2 inches, so. Well.
There is one at the top of the Leo Heritage Trail that kind of connects the Leo Heritage with the main street. I walk that one often, and if that was utilized as part of that trail, it might deter people from hanging out there and doing illegal things there, because I've seen that quite often. So if we can utilize that and make it more public as a trail system, it might deter that from happening.
Heidi?
Yeah, thanks, Craig, Mr. Chair. So I guess we need another motion here to direct staff to, probably get your list and compare it to a list that we already have, and to identify where there are some real possibilities and for improvement. So, because again, I don't know if, I know what part you're talking about because it cuts across the railroad tracks. I'm not sure who even owns that. I'm not sure that it's us. It could be, I know they just tore down that, the little shed there, but that was Muskoka Bay property. Muskoka Bay Club owned that, so. I think if we want to explore this further, I think the process is we have to direct staff to analyze this list of possibilities and make some recommendations as to how to proceed with these. I mean, if they're on private property, there's not a lot we can do about it. So, I mean, I'm happy to put something together with Bessie. Again, we can take like a 5-minute recess and we can put something together if there's an appetite to do so, to formally look at this, or do we want to see if that's part of the work plan too? Because, we pile this on, is this a priority for this committee? But I mean, I think it's some pretty low-hanging fruit though, for sure. So, I'll look around. Is there an appetite to formally direct staff to look at these? Yeah, well, I see some heads nodding, so I guess I would propose, Mr. Chair, that we take another 5 minutes, not even. It's 4:50. Well, let's say we'll come back at 4:55, and we'll have something to address this, if that works.
That works.
Okay?
Have that on. So be it resolved that the Gravenhurst Trails Committee directs staff to analyze the list of connecting pedestrian corridors and make recommendations on feasibility of incorporating them into the town's trail system. Can I have a mover? Tina, seconder? Val? All in favor? Okay, that passes. Yes, so I believe that's it for new business. So we have adjournment. Oh, Tina?
I have two questions first, and one, I'm sorry, I want to go back to the grant that you said that you applied for. What was that funding specifically for? Was it for maintenance, or could we use it for volunteer recruitment? Could we use it to set up some sort of competition or incentive of program, or?
It's the Trans-Canada Trail Spring Trail Care Grant, and it is to promote volunteerism on your trail as well as do some spring cleaning. So it is to push to have volunteers come out and then also recognize and celebrate those volunteers while also getting some little bit of maintenance done on your trail, but it's not for any major maintenance. So in my grant application, I said that we would we would focus on the north end of the Coopers Falls Trail and work from the trailhead in to there's a marshy area and a lookout kind of spot, and there's lots of, I'm sure there'll be sticks and stuff to clean up, but there's also some little wetland crossings and some signs. One of the things we don't have on our trail that we can work on is the Trans-Canada Trails changed their logo. So we can work on replacing signs as we go into the trail, which is easy tasks just to drill and change signs. So that's what I said we would do. We would work from the trailhead in towards the marsh and the lookout and have a volunteer appreciation luncheon. So
My second thing I wanted to say, I noticed that the next time we meet is not till June 12th, so, but did we as a group want to try to get on trails before that?
Yes, I'll be sending out an email to everyone, similar to the last one, and hopefully we get out pretty soon. Yeah.
And also, as Craig had mentioned before, our next scheduled meeting is June. If we feel that we need to get together and have a meeting, we can call ad hoc meetings at whatever time we find is needed and/or everybody's available.
I'm going to wait for you to call on me. So then it makes me wonder if do we need to be involved in the planning day? I think you said it was June 7th for that trail day?
That is International Trail Day, so they just suggest that that would be a good date, and doesn't even have to be specifically on that date. You have to have, they said they'll let everybody know March 14th if you're successful, and there's a deadline in July that you have to have completed this. But it was just a recommended date to do it, but we don't have to follow that.
And so follow-up, is this something that staff takes care of, or is this something you want input on, so we should meet ahead of to not just be on the trails to see what we're doing, but also talk about how we want that day to go, or what our roles are, or is that something staff takes care of, or is that something that we are involved in?
That could be one of those times. I think that if we want to have it as a group, we would have to call one of those ad hoc meetings to get together to be able to discuss it. Unless we wanted to break out into like smaller, kind of like subgroups, like working groups, so that we don't meet quorum, if that's, again, I don't know if we can decide that without having a meeting. We'd have to confirm the protocol.
Well, I think, oh, sorry, Heidi.
Well, I mean, I think just on process, I think, setting some dates and going out and looking at the trails, I think is top priority for all of us. I think most people are here because they'd rather be out there than in here. So I would suggest that, let's get out there. If we get out there and we're like, okay, we need a formal meeting to discuss this. I mean, anybody can reach out to Kyla or to Bessie and say, hey, or Craig as the chair, and say, listen, I think, this is really important, and suggest that the chair call a meeting. But I do think that these working meetings are priority for this group. I think this isn't anybody's sort of idea of a good time. But I think, so I would say, to your question, let's get out there. If, let's say you think that there's something we need to discuss, then we'll get out there and discuss it. I think maybe June is too far. I think maybe May, to come back with the working plan, is probably so then we have a list of things to actually work on. So to wait to June seems like a long time for me. I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Tina?
Well, to your point, that if we wait till June, I mean, and we really can't do much on the trails in the winter, so you've only got so many months to do stuff, so we should maybe make hay while the sun is shining, or whatever that cliche is.
Yeah, I'm under the impression that we can go out, well, I want to get this actually out pretty soon. And I'm under the impression that we don't really, you can tell us what needs to be done. I'm sure that you know the trails better than most of us, and to the extent that you do. If you say we need something done on, Leo Heritage Trail, then we don't need to all get together to work on something on Leo Heritage Trail, for example. So we have the ability to, be informed of some of the things that need to happen, and then we can go out there after the first meeting and have them be done. So Judy?
I noticed the talk of the master plan, which I never received, so I knew I wasn't going to do much as observed today, but could I get the info emailed to me, please? And so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, of course. Sorry about that, Judy. I'll definitely send that to you.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
my
This
apologies.
was a surprise to me too. But also, I will not be on trails if possible, and if I feel I could at that time, I will be bringing someone with me. My health is not that great right now. Okay?
Absolutely. And I'll get that to you today. All right?
Through you, Mr. Chair, on our town website, and Kyla can help direct Judy where that is, Judy, but we have a section on our departmental website where it has all the reports that our department typically oversees, and anybody can go in there and see the full document rather than burdening your email system.
Thank you, Director Stacey. Heidi?
Yeah, so I guess what I was trying to make a point was, I think maybe we shouldn't be waiting till June, because that work document, that, the plan, that's what's directing to what we're gonna be doing. So if we're waiting until June to do any of that, it seems like a big gap between. So I don't know how much time you need. It sounds like you have a pretty good handle on what it looks like already. So if anybody was opposed to moving that up, I know going forward, we said we'd meet about 4 times a year formally, but I think until we have that plan of what it looks like, I think it makes sense to just approve what the work plan looks like, if that makes sense to you, Kyla, instead of waiting till June. And then I would also suggest that going forward, if you do have an idea, like, the linkages that we talked about, or something that you're really passionate about that you want to bring forward to the committee, what you could do is connect with Kyla, the chair, or Ms. Steele, and have something prepared, and that gives the rest of the committee, so it can be on the agenda. I mean, it was on the agenda, but like, the proposal is on the agenda so that we can sort of understand what it is, and, maybe do our own bit of research before we come. And that way, it's there, the public know what they're talking about. And so if a member of the public thinks it's a terrible idea, they could also come and tell us that too. So just, that's an option. So procedurally, I think, let's say you want to put garbage cans every 40 feet on the trail, if that's something you want to come up with. So you have something formally ready on the agenda, so people know exactly what it is that you're looking to do. Just some feedback.
Very good feedback. Thanks. So does anyone else have anything, or so we talk about? Do we have to?
I think
formalize.
I can do this formally.
Tina?
I would, and I don't know what the formal language is, but I would move that we try to meet like in a month kind of thing, so that we can get moving on that, if you can accommodate that with your staff work that needs to be done.
Yes, like I said, I already have an outline, a pretty fleshed out outline, so it wouldn't take long to put something together and get it out to you. And I agree, I think the sooner that if we could come back and meet earlier than later, and then we can put those items or discuss what we want to focus on, that would be good.
Yes, I'm too not sure how to formally do that.
If you had an actual date in mind, I can let you know if the Chambers is available, or I can give you a few dates of when it is available. Keeping in with on a Thursday, in roughly about a month from now, April 24th looks open for the council chambers, if anyone's interested in that. May 1st as well. So I don't know if you want to talk amongst yourselves, if you're all in consensus with one of those dates, or just keep it in mind and then let us know afterwards.
Personally, I would suggest earlier than later,
Oh, yeah.
especially in Gravenhurst, the black flies come in May, so.
And then
Yeah.
April, sorry,
Go ahead.
is it still on? April 10th is available as well. That's a Thursday.
Kyla, does that give you enough time, though? Just so we can get the work plan, we can have a look at the work plan? I mean, it wouldn't be a long meeting, but that's up to you, and I don't know if you'd be able to get those linkages together by then either, which seems maybe not.
Again, I think it's earlier is better, and I would be okay with April 10th. And again, because this is kind of like the transitional season for me, so I still have time now to get that done before we move outside and on the ground stuff, so I'd be okay with April 10th.
April 10th works for me, so let's set it at April 10th. Do we need to?
At
4 o'clock?
on consensus.
Okay.
That's fine. Just maybe say it out loud on the thing, April 10th at 4 o'clock.
April 10th, 4 o'clock. We'll reconvene here for the next meeting. Okay. All right. Tina?
Sorry, I'm not always going to be this big of a pain. When, may I ask a question to Director Stacy? Am I allowed to ask you a question? When will you think your management team will start to look at the NOHFC funding opportunities, so that we know, like we don't want to, throw in like 12 applications, but do you have a time frame?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yeah. We are having a meeting, SLT meeting next week, and I believe it's on the docket, so we'll know better next week where the team lands. And whatever information I glean from that, I'll vet through Kyla to talk to the committee.
So maybe that can be on the April 10th agenda if we have time, or the one after.
Okay. So if there's nothing else, then we can go to adjournment. Okay. So motion to adjourn with the next meeting date, Thursday, April 10th at 4 PM in the council chambers. So can I get a mover? I believe Judy can't. Sam? Seconder? Heidi? Okay. Meeting adjourned. Oh, vote, sorry, yeah. Meeting adjourned.